Yo, yo. What up, Wolf? How you been, man? How was your holidays? Browser. What is up? What is up? Just want to make sure everything works. It's been a while since we've had to do this.
Okay, so I don't even need to have notes open, huh?
No, not really. Holidays were good. Slow. Yeah, kind of nothing out of the ordinary. Just some gaming, busy with family and kids. Nothing crazy. I'm sure we'll talk about it at the start of the show. But I think we're ready. Are you ready, Anish?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Let's do this.
You know what? Well, okay, go ahead. Fuck it. Go grab a bottle.
All right. Hello, what is up? Welcome to episode 367 of the Center Ring Esports podcast, aka TCR, aka. Did I already screw it up? It's been so long since I have to do this intro. I think I already screwed it up.
I feel like you did. It doesn't sound normal.
Doesn't sound normal, but we're going to roll with it. Restart, re-rack. Welcome to episode 367 of the Center Ring Esports podcast, presented by Philly Esports, and this is going to be the best episode ever. There we go. This is right. This feels right. Because it is our first episode of the new year, 2022, as well as one of our big episodes that we do every year. It is our second annual official esports tier list. So just like last time, we'll go through a lot of games. We added a few this year, so we'll go through, give our take, discuss it out loud. If you're in chat, feel free to make your case if it's your favorite game or whatnot. If you want to throw one in last minute, let us know. This is ever flowing, so if you're in chat, you can let us know. But before we get to any of that, gotta tell you about the show's sponsor, Philly Esports. You can check them out, phillyesports.gg. They host multiple monthly tournaments. We partaked in the Halo, their Halo one. What was it, just last month? They already have another Halo 4v4, January 29th, Halo Infinite, prize pool of $1,000, completely free to sign up. Go to phillyesports.gg. I believe, unless schedules are conflicting, we'll be in this tournament as well. We got to get with the boys. The holidays has separated us, but I think we'll be in that tournament as well. So you can do that, phillyesports.gg.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Stu2K from Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast presented by Philly Esports. Episode 367 coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, January 3rd, 2022. The time, 9:03 p.m. Central Time. Starting the year off right. Pretty much on time. I'll take it. Beggars can't be choosers. 3 minutes ain't bad. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Be sure if we ever take a little holiday break, you'll know. And be a part of the conversation in our Discord. The link is in the description of said Twitter at The Center Ring. My name is Tim. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
It's been too long, brother. It's been a minute here, and like I'm looking at my camera, and I feel like something's off, and it's bothering me. Does it feel off when I'm doing this? Like, do I look normal?
To be
you?
honest, everything feels off right now to me.
Everything feels a little weird. Like, just getting this mic going,
Like,
everything feels a little off.
I feel like for whatever reason, like I'm off-centered, but then I look at the lighting is weird. You take like a month off, not even. We just took like 2 weeks, right?
Feels like a month, but yeah.
But it feels like forever, and then it's just like everything is doesn't feel right. But
I am happy this is our first episode of the year. Like, this is a nice welcoming back, right? It's not too hardcore.
No.
A lot of this is off the cuff for us. I actually, in fact, just thought of another game that I want to add to it, so I'm just going to tell you. So hopefully one of us remembers by the time we get through. I want to throw Age of Empires in there because they do have a lot of tournaments going on right now.
So people in chat, remind us if we forget.
Yeah, which we might. There's a good chance, but I think it could be on the list this year. But yeah, dude, like, excited to be back. Excited this is the first episode. Just kind of miss the interaction with, the lovely people that listen, and getting a chance to talk to you and be away from my family for a little bit.
That's the best part of it. That's the best part. Wolf, gameplay video in chat. Good to see you, gentlemen. Hopefully you guys had a good holiday. Anuj, although we haven't done the show, we have been busy on holiday, playing a lot of games together.
It's just been you and me. It's just been you and me over the holidays.
I don't know what happened to the crew. It's like holiday break. Normally it's like peak gaming time. And
used to be, right?
And yet something happened. For me personally, gaming is the only thing keeping me sane.
Can I tell you what messed up everything for me, Tim? I decided to get a dog over the holiday break.
Idiot.
I normally would have been on, I would have been on a lot. I was off for 2 weeks straight. I would have played games during the day, waited for nap time, got on for like an hour or two during then. I would have busted out a lot more gaming than I did. But we got a little 8-week lab puppy. He's adorable, cutest thing in the world. But oh my God, he requires so much attention right now. And we gotta make sure we wear him out during the day and get him exhausted. And we're sleeping through the night now, which is a wonderful thing, just a week in, but it has been a very, very long 2 weeks here.
I feel your pain. I could not think of anything I'd want less. I'm glad you're getting the animals, so that way I can just bring my kid over there when he wants to play with one.
Yep, please.
We have a dog now. It's a little corgi. We love him. But we have had the conversation, my wife and I, and like, this will be the last animal.
Y'all are talking about putting him down next week, right?
For a long time.
He's like only 3 years old?
I've thought about just bringing him out back. Just doing it myself. Save some money. But no, last animal for a long time. Love them. But just 2 kids and low patience will kill that hope pretty quick.
If I ever got another dog, I would get a older dog kind of off the bat, like 3, 4, 5 years old.
8 weeks is
already.
puppy.
Yeah, like getting the puppy it wasn't a bad idea. It's been so much work. It's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. I mean, it's a baby that you can't just stick in a crib and put a diaper on it.
Labs are like hyperactive too. You know, they chew on shit. They're just all over. I mean, he is a madman.
Yep. I told you the story where old mutual friend, old host of the show, Brandon, may he rest in peace. We were roommates at one point in time, and he bought a lab, probably like a couple months old, probably similar to yours. I think he had it for like 2 weeks before I was like, bro, you got to get rid of this thing. Like, you're never home to take care of it. He's going batshit crazy in your room. Like, it's not fair to him. It's not fair to us. Like, you got to.
That's exactly why you haven't seen me, because we know we got to put him first and make sure we get him what he needs. And, we're getting there. I hear after 2 years, it slows down a little bit. So what are we, 8, 9 weeks in now?
There you go. Positive. Look at the positive. Like you said, though, positive is we are back. Update everyone on what's going on here. We are doing our esports tier list of 2021 today. So we let the full calendar year go through, and we go over our thoughts, our opinions, our feelings. There's really, I was trying to think of like rules on how we do this, but that's kind of the beauty of it, is Anuj and I, we don't discuss this prior to. Like, we say, hey, what games do you want added? I really don't like taking games off unless it's just like dead, like doesn't exist anymore type of thing. But we didn't take any games off from last year. So it's the same list plus a handful of others. We've added games to it. Some listener recommended, some we felt should just be on there. And we really don't I mean, there are no rules. It's
I
not
don't even have notes, Tim.
I have no notes in front of me. This is why this is the new tradition, is this is the first show of the year, because during holiday, esports doesn't really happen, like events, a lot of roster changes, which we'll talk about in another episode. But I don't have the time or energy to pay attention to things. So
No, and it's like just going back to work for the first day today. It's like, you know what? Let's just do something fun, relaxing for us. And I think this is exactly it. This is
Yeah.
a good way to do it.
So there's no rules, we're judging the games based off of how we feel they rank up against each other and where they would place in a tier list. It's not, I can tell you the one thing I don't judge. I think of where the game could potentially be at, but very little, that goes very little into my scale, as well as like the history of the game. But the one thing I don't do is I'm not judging these games whether I like them or not. This is not my favorite
looking
game.
at this from what this game was last year.
Right.
The history will play a little bit just
little
naturally
bit.
in the back of your
Right.
mind because that is there and you know what you've seen. Like you can't erase that stuff. But I really want to try and make this. This is what 2021 was for these
Right.
esports in
Because
particular, right?
when we
And
posted it on Twitter last week, we got a lot of like, I don't want to say hate, but there were some people not reading the tweet saying like, oh, this is a trash tier list. And it's like, they were like, oh, Halo is obviously way better. Well, let me pull up last year's list here. We had Halo at the D tier, and this is S, A, B, C, D, E, F, right? So it's your standard, what I would say your standard list. Well, back in 2020, which is what this list was in regards to, if you told me Halo was anything over a D, that was generous. Remember,
D was a good rank. We only gave it a D because of the history for you.
I had to convince you to put Halo in D. Like, you wanted to put it in E or F. It was me clawing at it. Like, just
to be fair, it deserved to be an E or an F.
And it probably did. Like, looking at this list, I'm like, oh, I put Halo on a D list? Like, okay, pretty nice. Pretty nice of us to put Halo on a D. So, like, people are, like, trying to, chirp at us for that. And it's like, guys, you got to check your feelings at the door when it comes to this list. Now, again, if you're listening right now and you're in chat and you have a feeling towards it and you make a case, obviously we'll listen and we can discuss here on the show. But what you also have to consider is, okay, you're saying Halo is a S tier esports, right? Well, let's say for, no spoilers alert, League of Legends, right? You're telling me Halo and League of Legends is on the same tier? That's what you could say that with a straight face? So that's what I'm saying. That's kind of my brain dissects this, okay? So let's get into this real quick before we do, just to kind of keep all of our listeners on the same schedule as us. Next week was going to be the Timmies. Scratch it. It's the week after. The 17th will be the Timmies. Next week will be a catch-up of what we missed on the holidays, and we're doing this so we can talk about things, and it's like the Timmies will be like...
We just don't want things to get too far
Right.
pushed out, because although there was no events, as Tim mentioned, over the holidays, a lot of news. It'll almost be an e-news episode with one particular topic. I think I know which one we'll probably talk about, but I'll save that. But it'll be a heavy catch-up episode, catch you guys up on all the roster moves, and I think we'll honestly have a handful more between now and next episode,
Right.
especially in the Counter-Strike world, to go over. So next week will be fun because it'll be just a lot of catch-up over
episode.
the last month. And
17th, Timmy's. It is never too late to get your nominees and picks in. So let us know if you have a category nominees. Anuj, someone messaged me just so I don't forget, and I put it out there in the universe. Branding, another rebrand Timmy, which I couldn't remember if we did one last year, if all the rebranding happened last. I said I gotta look at how many rebrands happened last year to see if there's enough to do in a category. But That's one there, so we'll get that in order. And also, we started this last year, and I actually love the idea of it, is a in memoriam section of the Timmies. So if anyone that you know of, and don't think that we already have it on our list, because I promise you we don't, if anyone in the industry has passed away, whether it be player, caster, observer, a developer, a publisher, whoever, right? If they had any touch into esports gaming world, give us their name, and we will add them to the list so we can take a moment to appreciate them. All right. So I just wanted to say that before we get into the official. Are you ready, Anuj? Because this is, once we set this in stone, it's in stone. We can change it as we're doing it. But when we hit the off button, when we stop streaming, this is it. This is the official.
We're locked in.
The official industry's official 2021 esports tier list. Now let's start off just like we did last time. I think let's start with an S so we can get that out of the way. And to prove that this is not based off of how I personally like a game, let's start with the obvious. And maybe you don't agree with me. League of Legends. A game that I have put maybe 3 hours in my entire life. And half of that is me sitting AFK on the login screen. But I don't know. I would be more interested if anyone had an argument on why League of Legends wouldn't be an S tier.
It'd be hard to argue against it. I don't think you could. Now, I don't play regular, I guess you could say, quote unquote, League of Legends. I play Aram, and to me, that's a very fun game mode, but I know it's not the traditional game. But from an esports standpoint, dude,
I mean,
it's too easy. There's probably one other gimme in my mind on this list that will go up there with it at some point. But for League of Legends, it just, the viewership, the player base, the way their events are run, the fact that they, had an event last year, all those things would keep it as an S tier from the previous year. I think we would probably get denounced as esports knowledgeable folks if we put that anywhere else.
Yeah. Nope. Absolutely. Now, just to prove that we did not discuss this prior, how do you want to do this?
Go in order of the way it's like it is on the picture.
Okay. So up next, Melee. Super Smash Brothers Melee, right? We're looking at the same one? Okay. Up next, Super Smash Brothers Melee. Now, last time this was an A tier, and I remember a lot of discussion around it. And again, this was one where I think for me, pound for pound, when it comes to fighting games, and I know a lot of FGC people will already disown me because I just included it in a fighting game. Let me tell you what, it's a fighting game, okay? Pound for pound, though, I still think it's better than Ultimate. I think it's the better Smash out there to watch. A, because of the speed. B, because of the history, and then the players involved, right? You see the names, you recognize the names. But was it A tier last year?
I think we gave it a little bit of a rating based on also how we feel the game is, because I don't think it's an A tier game. I think it's an A tier game. I don't think it's an A tier esport. I think it lacks too much support from the developer.
This is the year Nintendo acknowledged that it still exists.
But that's 2022. So
right. We'll see what type of support it gets. Nintendo acknowledges that they're going to work with Melee. I'll believe it when I see it.
In 2021, in fact, they broke down the people that were trying to host events more so than brought them up.
No, so very true.
If I was really looking at this with an objective eye, to me it falls in B or C tier for 2021.
I will say, I'll give it, I agree. I was going to say B. So if that's our common ground, I think it drops a tier. It was obviously, even though, never really had to deal with it, but it's out of Evo, right? We're seeing it not invited to some of these events because people are just moving on from Melee as far as the TOs go. But I think B tier is still respectable in their eyes.
It still pulls its weight as when the big events come around, it still pulls in viewers. People are still it still trends on Twitter in the esports area. Like it's good. It's just there's no support. And I think we saw more taken away last year than even in some previous years because other
Right.
people have come in and tried to host some events and it's just been shut down. So it could fall even more, honestly, unless it does get better because it's slowly dying out due to lack of support.
So, speaking of the thing that might be killing it, is its brethren, the newer version of it, Ultimate. I know this is not the Ultimate logo for those watching on stream, but deal with it. It is the other Smash, is how we are going to identify this. Ultimate. I have a hard case putting it anywhere near Melee, just because, yes, Ultimate does well for itself, but I'm talking from an esports ecosystem where, Nuge, you were saying Melee, what carried Melee to B tier was the fact that it still creates buzz. People are still talking about it. I feel like that does not happen with Ultimate. Any names that you recognized with Ultimate, unfortunately, were caught up in the Me Too scandal. So it, like, Ultimate lost a lot of its figureheads, right? Like, it lost its main guys that you saw kind of play through Smash U and move transition over. You lost a lot of those guys with Ultimate and that scandal going on. I don't see buzz about it like you would normally would with Melee. Yeah, pulls in nice numbers, but you don't have that oomph. I don't know where we put it last
Almost
time.
like it pulls in nice numbers almost just because of the popularity of the game. I
Right.
don't even think it's so much that people necessarily care that much about the esports side of it. It's just the fact that Ultimate is massive, right? Like the player base is so damn big for it.
Right.
But I would also probably I don't know if I would downgrade it from last year, Tim.
I
I definitely wouldn't bump it up, but this falls into if we're giving Melee a B, which is best in class when it comes to fighting games for the most part, this has to stay at D or E tier for me.
I
Like
would say, and I would say D. Like, it didn't do, because the reality is it's at more tournaments than Melee, right? So
but you only hear about the Melee tournaments.
right. But I would keep it at D. I don't think it didn't do enough to raise it, but it didn't do not enough. Does that
I
make
guess it
sense?
couldn't have been worse than the Me Too year
Yeah,
for
right.
them. So
If it can
we'll just
survive
keep
at
it at
D
the
for me
same
too,
level.
we'll
I
keep
guess
it there.
we'll
So
just
D.
we can keep it there.
So for those keeping track, S tier League of Legends, Melee, B tier, and D tier Ultimate. Moving on to the next one on the list, Halo. So we had Halo Infinite released just a couple months, really 2 months ago, right? 2.5 months ago, whatever it is. We've already had the first major tournament. Raleigh was, 3 weeks ago, not even a month ago, we had the first major tournament. So we got a taste of what Halo Esports is. A lot of people are saying it's back. The hype was there. They shattered their personal viewership records. It was #1 on Twitch, pretty much for the entire weekend. Now drops are involved there, so say what you will, right? But that's just them playing the game.
But those are people that are playing that are
Right.
watching for the drops, right?
Now, and look, everyone does drops, right? Look at Tarkov. Tarkov's up there, drops, right? That's the name of the game on Twitch. You put drops in, you put a beta code in, it's gonna get #1. So we won't slap their hand for that. It was still a big tournament. All the hype was around it. You had the entire Call of Duty community pretty much promoting this tournament just to show how bad COD is, right? Last year, Halo, as we said, was a D tier, and that was me pleading for it. I would say, although it was one tournament, I would I don't want you to yell at me, because maybe I'm looking at this as a fanboy. I don't know.
I know where you're going. I'll tell you my 2 cents after you say it.
I was gonna say B
Are
tier.
you trying to give it? Oh, okay.
I'm gonna say
Okay,
B.
we're on the same page. And the
Okay.
reason I can't bump it up to an A is because it was only one event so
Yeah,
far.
one
An
event.
amazing event, as good of a launch event as you could have asked for in the esports world, right? It drew in numbers that Halo has never seen, and that says something coming from a game as old as it is. So they have definitely started off on the right foot. I think keeping the momentum might be challenging. I think it's still going to do well, but I don't expect to see the same type of numbers, going forward. I really, really don't. I think watching Halo at a competitive level is very pleasing to the eyes. It's pretty easy to follow and understand what's going on, even if you don't play the game. The game modes are very simple. The movement is not some supersonic speed, like it's floaty and a little bit slower. The time to kill is slow, so you can really watch a gunfight without feel like you're missing something if you turn
Hmm.
around for a second. So I think it has all the right components. I think 2021 is 2022 is going to be so crucial for them to find a way to expand and carry the hype over.
Right.
And I've talked to you about this in a private discussions a lot. I feel of I am worried about the longevity of the game. I think it could have an amazing first year. Kind of curious where it goes from there.
And
And so
that's where I feel mentally too, is like, because I talked about it, people in Discord and Twitter and things like that, and yeah, Halo is back, right? Like, it was a crazy thing. The game is a ton of fun. Anuj and I saved the recording of it. I got to put it on YouTube. We played a match yesterday that was just unreal.
we had no business in winning.
Unreal.
No business.
We had every
We were-
business because we were the better team, and we had like 150-point comeback when they only needed one to win, on Control. But unbelievable. But that's besides the point.
We should just play that live right now, Tim.
I mean, really, just take the whole show and just review it. It was incredible. I mean, I felt like I was on the main stage. Like, I was so hyped.
It was hype. It was good.
My fear with Halo. Oh, this is what it was. Is someone on Reddit, I think, commented that, I said my fear with Halo is if the trend is continuing and 343 just completely dismisses their mouse and keyboard fan base, that is my fear, that the game won't have the longevity that it can. Because say what you want, mouse and keyboard are at a disadvantage. The stats are there to back it up. On average, you're getting 10% more accuracy with the controller players, and that is massive when it comes to like playing on a competitive level, like pros against pros, right? 10%, that's every fight. That's going to be
That's literally every fight.
That's going to be every fight the controller player comes out on top. They got to do something with that. And I'm not even saying decrease the aim assist with controller. I'm saying up it a little bit on mouse and keyboard. Give it some
magnetism. Give it a little magnetism.
Whatever you want to call it. Mouse and keyboard need some support in that range. We saw it at Raleigh. Awesome tournament. But that first day is yikes of the year worthy for like the worst day I've ever seen a I mean, your launch event, your day one was abysmal. Absolutely
that
trash.
part could not have been worse. You basically had to scratch PCs, play on Xbox, ask mouse and keyboard people to deal with input delay on the Xbox for mouse and keyboard, which is there. And I mean, that was a total disaster. But I still think as a whole, the event crushed it.
Right.
But it really was the worst possible day one.
Yeah.
It reminded me of, what was it, Blast Pro? Like having
just
to play their
awful day
games
one.
off stream, basically. Like they just didn't stream it just so they could get through it.
My
But
fear
I think
is
B is fair for what they showed us they can do, have the ability to do. And I think to move above this, Tim, they have to find a way to grow a little bit.
Yeah.
Not the audience numbers, but they have to be able to keep the player base as active as it is right now.
And I also think, my fear with there is that if you're ignoring the PC players, mouse and keyboard players, your only competition then is other console games. And can you survive the onslaught of a new Call of Duty every single year? Regardless of what people's opinions are of this Call of Duty, you know there's another one right around the corner. And all it is going to take is one good Call of Duty to pull people away from playing Halo competitively.
And look, especially if we're not getting a game every like 2 or 3 years with Halo, right? If Halo Infinite is supposed to be a game for the next 5, 6, 7 years,
and I think it is. That's the vibe I get. Is like,
well, if that's the plan, you're gonna run into issues because
Right.
Call of Duty will eventually put out one good game, right? I don't know if it'll be next year. I don't know if it'll be the following year. They might have to remake Black Ops 2 or do something to like get
Yeah.
everybody back, but
I
there's a
think
way.
I think 343 is putting a lot of faith that the esports ecosystem will carry this game through all that. But again, you can't let it get stale, right? Like you already have an awesome game. Like it's awesome. So just carry it out. So moving on to the next one, but B tier for Halo. Improvement went from D to B. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. Room to grow, but yet room to fall. So I think that's good. Next one. This might be an interesting one. Valorant. Last year, we put it on A tier.
Put it on B tier last year.
B tier. Did we really? B tier.
Yeah.
Okay, that's some pretty
It was
good.
so new.
Yeah,
It's
that's
so, like, it
no.
was
I'm
just,
impressed.
like,
That's self-control on our part. You know, GG's to us. I thought we would have put it on A, but no, because last year it was like brand spanking new. There was no VCT tournaments, and people were like, "How do you put Valorant on B tier?" Because there was nothing for it, guys. So again, look at this year though. Completely different. Pulled a 180. Obviously, we had all the VCT events, all the Riot involvement. We've had drama involved. I mean, it grew up. It's a real esport. It's here to stay. I'll let you go first.
To me, so with Valorant, it's not like tricky on where I would place it for this past year, but I want to tell you where I think they could improve. I think the formatting for their events are god awful. I initially liked that open feel that they were doing, and I'm still okay with that. But the way that they are run throughout the year, it's rather confusing. It really is like confusing to track, and then you almost don't give a shit now that you know what the end game is, right? I want to see the Masters event, and then I want to see the championship event. But it falls under A tier. I think there's almost no doubt about that for last year's performance because it still shook the esports world. The VCT events leading into the championship, like there was so much hype around it. Viewership numbers were there. There's no reason not to give it anything else. It's definitely not S tier to me. Okay. So if you're shouting at me right now in chat to make it S tier, I really don't even think it's like there's some games where I could maybe teeter the line between jumping up a tier. Valorant still has a long way to go for me to be a true S tier. And I think honestly this year, Tim, is more crucial than like their launch year for last year in terms of being a real esport because now the hype doesn't care. The new game hype starts to wear off and you have to start putting a system in place that's engaging for viewers to watch. I know we already have the schedule leaked for 2022. I can tell you I'm not super thrilled that it's similar. I kind of wish they had made some tweaks and made it a little bit more engaging throughout the qualifying process. In fact, they took a step back and eliminated some of the qualifying rounds. So if you lose your round in February, you don't play again until like May.
Yeah, that's what I don't.
There's like
That's what I don't like about
weird,
it. Is
weird gaps there. So
if you have one of your top tier teams and an org that pulls in viewers, say like FaZe, right? It's just they're gonna pull in viewers. You want them playing as much as possible, and if they have an off event early on, you're out for like half the year. So you
and
can't
without third party support like
Yeah.
TO
can't be
support,
normal.
like
Can't
you're
be normal.
relying on these singular events to carry you throughout the year. And God forbid a team like Sentinels has a bad event and they drop off a little bit and you have a TSM effect, right? At the end of the year, not even being in contention for anything. Like that could really hurt the game long
Right.
term until they go to a league system and play more consistently. So it's A tier. I don't think it's a given that it 100% stays or moves up for sure. I don't think it moves into S tier following this year, but I think the formatting has a lot to go. I'm loving the game. I think the game is great. I think the agent additions are great. I think the maps are total shit, but overall the game is in a pretty good place. I mean, I think they're
It's
they're at
there.
least consistently adding new content to a game and that's engaging. So I like where Valorant's sitting at. I wouldn't move it above A. I think it's definitely an A for 2021. I think 2022 is obviously, to be determined.
Agreed. Yeah, no, everything you said, I agree. A tier. The one thing that holds me back is that it's tough to be S tier when you have half of your league could be potentially done for half the year early on. So there's A tier, respectable, went up. Anuj, next on the list, just by circumstance, is StarCraft 2. If you would indulge me, do you want to just knock out all the Blizzards at once? Like just hit them rapid fire, like back to back to back?
What else do we have from Blizzard? We got WoW, Hearthstone.
StarCraft.
No, leave it. Leave it. Go in the order that it's in, because then it's gonna like take out some big games from the end, and we'll have all these shitters waiting for us at the very end.
Okay.
So
All right. Fair
keep
enough.
going this way. So with StarCraft, Tim, I gotta tell you, I had to look up some stuff just now, and I did. And I was like, you know what? Let me see what like cash cups and stuff are going on. There was the Cash Cup 104 Americas happening. First place was $250, which I shouldn't be judging things off of, money, but I see they still have a 10K event, which is like one of the bigger DreamHack, Masters events for them. Like StarCraft has no developer support, and I knocked
Not even on the
Me-
esports side. Like,
yeah, I
from a
knocked
game
Melee for that.
standpoint.
But like Melee still has like third party large tier events going on. StarCraft's pretty much dead in the water. Like they got to make a new one at some point, you would think. But we had this ranked as an E last year. I keep it as an E this year. For 2021. I didn't see any change in it. Nothing caught my eye throughout the year. I couldn't talk to you about one event. I don't want to give it an F because it's StarCraft and it doesn't deserve to be an F.
Right. The
but, like,
history's there. If the thing is with StarCraft, like I remember, and this wasn't last year, but many years ago when it was at DreamHack, it wasn't on the main stage, but it had a good size stage. And for the matches, it was always full. Like the bleachers in the area were always full. The fan base is still there. It's just small, right? Dedicated, but small. So
yeah, the game's still awesome. It's just it lacks support.
And
so,
again, just judging this off of last year, and I'm going to say this point now and just carry it over to every other Blizzard game. Blizzard's esports scene kind of revolves around BlizzCon. And when you don't have a proper BlizzCon, like it's just going to hurt. Like they don't know what to do outside of that. That's supposed to be kind of their pinnacle event every year. And when you don't have it, you can definitely tell on the developer side, they're like, I guess we'll just do normal stuff.
This is not a games tier list.
No.
This is an esports tier list. So this is based on what they did in the esports scene in 2021. And for me, it's non-existent. We give it a little bump up from F because it's StarCraft and we like it, but it doesn't deserve anything more than E tier for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Up next on the list, NBA 2K League. Now, Anuj, last year we had them at, I don't know how, we had them at a D tier.
They were kind of new still.
They were new. They had the leagues backing, like the NBA still backs them, and you have a lot of the teams, obviously, who are in it, backs them, right? Like the Mavs, very involved. The Pistons, very involved with it. Is it more, though, an esport to them or a way to advertise and get more people interested into basketball? Which I'm not going to knock them for that, because obviously that's probably more or less why they did it, right? You get the kids involved and then whatever. But that being said, I can't tell you one soul that cares about this. Like, to the point where I'm surprised they're still doing it.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, like, why I kind of appreciate what they do is they also have like an amateur league, where academy teams get to come in and play professional teams to get that experience. They have a 3v3 league and a 5v5 league, so they're trying to cater to like multiple groups. I think for where it falls within the sports realm of video games and or sports games and esports, it's on the higher end. But when it comes down to comparing it against its other esports games out there, it's gonna fall short. Like there's just not enough there. And I mean, I would keep it in D because I don't think it's like a complete failure. It's just they just don't have like the viewership numbers, but I think they have a good player base, right? That's like involved in it. I would say D. Maybe we could drop it to an E.
I would have to drop it to, in my opinion, an E.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I
Just
can
because
live
there's
with
no
that. I
growth.
just
We've seen it go another year, and there just hasn't been growth in the sense of anyone caring about it.
but you'll never really get that with sports games, right? Like
No, you won't. And again, that's where it's like, to them, maybe like an E tier or D tier is like, okay, we're not F, right?
yeah,
Congratulations.
we're not the worst of the group,
Right.
you know. But they have like a stats page where they keep track of everything. Like I think they do a pretty good job for what they
They
have.
take it serious, right?
Yeah, like they do. Like if Call of Duty treated their game, their esports scene, the way NBA 2K treats their esports scene, like Call of Duty would be S tier, A tier
Yeah.
for us,
I mean, you could say that about any of these, right?
And
If
so
they
I
cared as
hate
much.
to like knock on them so hard when I know they're really doing everything they can. There's just not it's just not going to be a big esport, right?
Right.
But it is hyper competitive. They do the draft. They have an academy system.
Maybe this is
So
how it got to D tier last time, because we
probably we'll
talked
probably had
ourselves.
the same argument. We talked ourselves up
Probably.
a
We'll
tier.
put it in E tier and we'll see where it ends up. We can always move it. Up next on the list, we have two fighting games that we can just pretty much discuss at the same time: Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. For
Take it
me,
away.
a lot of the fighting games can kind of be, look, last year with COVID and all this, right? Multiple years in a row, fighting games got hit probably the hardest of all the esports scenes, just because they're historically not great online. Like, you just need to have that, couch play to really embrace the fighting game community of it. So there's that. So I don't think any of them necessarily grew last year in the sense of this tier list, but I really felt like they took a hit. I mean, hell, you had Sonic Fox, number one fighting game guy of all time, was saying, like, don't quit your day job to be FGC player. Like, it's just, for me, I'm a rarity, right? Like, you have to be in the top 1% to even think about
not
doing it.
even 0.001%. Like you
Yeah,
really
it's
got to
just,
be
you really
top.
have, and I looked this up, like, for CEO, which is a huge fighting game tournament held every year, Nooch, their Street Fighter prize pool was like $5,000, $7,000. The prize pool, not the winner takes
That means
home.
first place is taking home like 2,000, and it kind of just trickles down from there.
And that's with, like, Capcom and NetherRealm, like, they support their games.
What's also hurt is losing. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the event.
Evo.
Yeah, like not having these events active. The COVID hit. The lack of
And they did online, but it's not the same.
Is it not? Like for fighting games, it hurts more than almost any other game to like play these games on not on LAN. Like I'm sure it feels so different for the players, playing that. You know, we somehow managed to split these last year, and I'm trying to think about how on earth
Well,
did we not have them
because
in the same one.
you have, like, the Capcom tour, it just felt like Street Fighter was a little bit more involved. But to me, for both of these games, I'd probably put on E tier.
Yeah, because like, would you say that either of these games from an esports side is significantly bigger than
Not
2K?
now. Not now.
Yeah.
Now, historically, I will tell you.
But for 2021.
Right. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Historically, Street Fighter, for the longest time, was like the bar, right? Like, that's where you wanted to get in FGC was, Street Fighter. But
I'm seeing a lot of sim racing stuff here, and I feel bad that we left this out.
I know. I don't know how we did, considering NASCAR and all that were really good last year. Well, we can just discuss it now if you want. We'll do sim racing in general. If we had to add it to the tier,
for me, sim racing was the biggest winner of COVID.
right?
Like because sim racing prior to COVID, I never saw shit on it. Like never ever thought about it, talked about it. I knew it was there. I knew professional drivers used it as a way to kind of practice and maybe off time. If you had a cool racing rig, that was kind of badass, but never really heard anything about the esports side. Now, I mean, we've seen that develop more during COVID, and it's been so COVID friendly. Like people have just drawn interest, especially into F1 in particular. Like the amount of stuff I read on my socials from the esports people talking about F1 has been kind of fascinating.
Right.
I would they have a long ways to go to be considered, a top tier esport, but I would safely put them in like a C category, thinking that hey, you're in the middle ground. You've done more than any of the other ones that we've talked about. You're higher than them in popularity. You trend when your live events are going on like crazy on socials. So I think from an esports side, they've done a good enough job to be respectable. They've garnered a lot of attention, and I think they fall into a C category kind of safely, honestly.
I agree. That's where I was going to put it too. So any sim racing, this is involving iRacing, the Coca-Cola series, the the NASCAR for NASCAR, because I actually watch that stuff too. And I think the big thing here is with sim racing is and it's very easy. Sim racing is like one of the more traditional sports that you can make this comparison. It's like the closest one-to-one to the real thing, right? So it's like, you have people in chat talking about it, and I completely agree, is you can have F1 drivers, watch the guys who exclusively do like the e-racing side of things and completely respect and get what they're doing because it's such a close one for one. Now, that's not saying it is one for one because obviously it's not, but it's much closer than you're going to ever get with like a Madden tournament, right? So I think you can have that simple crossover between the real thing to the esports side. The fans, I think, equally and not equally, but they get it and they enjoy it. The fact that NASCAR on their, because I'm a big NASCAR guy, I have my sim racing wheel right. Now, if you're talking about me on sim racing, I would be S tier in the ability to crash by himself. I am horrendous at sim race. So I have iRacing. I've never actually raced in a real person race because I know people pay for it, and I'm so bad, Anuj. I would be that guy that would cause like an entire crash on turn one,
Just ruin it.
And
for
I would just be
everyone.
like, guys, I'm sorry. Like
getting lapped in the third lap somehow.
Yeah, like I can't even beat myself when I'm like
what
racing
helps
time.
these racing games in general is you do have the professionals playing it online,
Yeah.
right? Like they're involved in the esports side. I think that helps a lot. Like it helps not only just drive viewership but interest, right? If you have a favorite racer and he's doing this, you can go watch him outside of that one event a week or whatever the scheduling is,
Right.
right? Like you can go watch him in different ways and engage with him in other areas. And so I think C is like a safety net. Like I wouldn't go below that, but I don't
Right.
feel comfortable
And the
giving
fact
it
like
any
for
more.
like the actual NASCAR preview shows like on Fox and stuff, they'll talk about the real race and then they'll always like preview the e-racing coming up, which I think in
Yeah.
my opinion is pretty huge, right? Like the
No,
fact
it
that
is.
they're talking about it and
If
giving it respect like
if
that.
you're watching an NBA broadcast, they don't mention 2K League.
Right.
Like
So I
that's
think
not
it's
how it
huge.
works.
Yep. Another one asked in the chat. We've actually discussed this before, Nuge. I think we were different on it. Was chess, esports chess? I don't consider
No.
chess an esport.
No, that's not.
You're
don't
playing
even-
chess on the computer, but it's not an esport. I don't want to be
No.
like a gatekeeper here, but it's just in my eyes. That's how I see it.
No. You've been watching too much Envy. That's where that's coming from.
Hearthstone, next on the list. I think you could probably throw this into almost any trading card game at this point. Hearthstone for a long time kind of just was the king of esports card games. Then they came out with the Battleground expansion, which we got to play at BlizzCon, first ever. It's fun. I don't think it's really picked up on any competitive side of things. And Hearthstone in general, again, this is just Blizzard. Without BlizzCon, I haven't heard any hype built up around it. It used to be years ago where it's like I paid attention to Hearthstone esports and you heard about the tournaments coming up.
They had the Hearthstone World Championship just take place, had a pretty good prize pool to it. It still draws decent numbers because it is, I think probably still by far the most popular.
It's just, yeah, it's if you're playing card game
there.
online, that's what you're playing.
D, and maybe just lump TFT in there with it, like all the TFT style games, right? Like,
yeah, it just
throw all of them together with the card games. I would say like D, maybe C. You could probably have a category for, if we did those TFT type games. Like we could probably put those and see if we
Yeah.
wanted to. But Hearthstone, I think, is
You could, yeah, Hearthstone. You could convince me D. You could probably convince me E at any given night. It's like you said, like the big tournaments still pulling the viewer, so I guess they're there. It's just you don't have as many, like Hearthstone.
And the further that they progress, the less new player friendly these games become
Right.
over
No,
time.
that's very true.
And that also like hurts. It hurts the game in my mind.
Yeah,
The
and that's
way
any trading card game,
done.
though.
Yeah,
Like try getting into Magic now, right? And I know they'll cycle out cards and like okay, we're gonna use these, and that's kind of how they combat on the online side of card games. They'll kind of combat that type of style, but nonetheless, it's there. Next on the list, a game called Counter-Strike Global Offensive, CS:GO, Anuj. Last year was the only other tier S game other than League of Legends. I don't think it changed, despite the fact that we were looking a little rocky with the major ever happening. It did happen. It's the king of FPS when it comes to esports.
It's like not even a question. Okay,
It's-
Tim. The way we talk about League of Legends, Counter-Strike is in that same class, no doubt about it. As an FPS game, it is the best one out there. I mean, it draws the viewership it has, the excitement of watching the game, right? Like I think the casual viewer can really enjoy Counter-Strike, and you hear that from so many esports figures, right? Like Hex says it all the time on his podcast that I don't play Counter-Strike, but man, do I love watching the shit out of that game. And I think a lot of people feel that way. I think the player base is actually still at a pretty good spot, but the amount of people that just enjoy watching it, if you played it 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you understand what it takes to play at that level. If you've used your mouse and keyboard in Counter-Strike, it is not easy with recoil patterns and just all the other stuff, movement, everything else that's there. It's the full package to me when we talk about in esports. It really,
if you really want to talk the difference between the esports scene and the game scene itself, the game is like almost at a disarray in the sense of like there are so many things people are asking for it, and Valve is just like, yeah, okay, whatever, bro. Like, it's still fun.
It's still in a good, healthy spot, but
Right.
it could be so much better. And I think that's where the fans get upset. Is
Right.
we know what it could be for the casual player.
So the game is almost
side.
I think it's almost like 10 years old, and you get on it, and it's like it's stuck in 10 years ago, right? Like,
yeah, they haven't like updated like rank systems and things like that, and since its launch. So I think CS:GO easy S tier. It's just really the total package when it comes to
worldwide.
viewership. Yeah, I mean teams from every country, figureheads from countries. When Putin is congratulating you, like that means something. Porn stars coming out of the woodworks to congratulate players, and Simple primarily for their victories. So it's really something incredible with Counter-Strike that they can hold that type of spot for as long as they have. But it's clearly in a class of its
And
own.
it's like it has the history, and people talk about like, well, how long can Counter-Strike go? It's already been around for almost 2 decades as far as like a top esports. I mean, it's just, I don't see how it could possibly go anywhere. Like you even had Valorant, which was at launch being called a Counter-Strike clone, which, style-wise,
Counter-Strike clone, Counter-Strike killer. Like,
right.
I mean,
and it's proven that there's been enough space in it for both of them, and Counter-Strike I still think reigns supreme as far as that's concerned. But yeah, easy S tier. S tier.
Agreed.
Next on the list here is Gears of War. I think last time we had it at an E tier. Look, it's still there. The scene is still there. I really can't lie. It's not like I pay attention too much for it. Even when their tournament was 10 minutes down the road from us in Arlington, you and I like text each other like, do you want to go? And we were like, no. I don't even want to go watch it, even when it's live in our backyard.
And they lost some like mental.
Yeah, like you had a few players retire, few went to Call of Duty, some are going to the new Halo, and I feel like how we were talking about Halo's in trouble when it comes to like if any new console games ever come out, like it's just going to take a chunk of theirs. Gears of War is in like extra trouble because it's not even an FPS, right? It's third person over the shoulder, which in itself is very unique when it comes to competitive esports shooters. I don't want
I
to.
would not move it back above E for sure, but I would even consider F tier.
I was about to say I don't want F tier is just so harsh because it's like your game's borderline dead. It's not
But it is
dead,
borderline dead,
but
is
it
it
is
not?
borderline. Are we? Yeah. So if it's F tier, like S tier is like your game can't screw up. It's perfect. F tier is you're borderline dead. Like you're on life support at this point.
Could somebody in chat do this tiebreaker for us? Like, should it be like E or F? Because I could
Let
really
me tell
like.
you what. We both think it's F because I think it's F.
I think it's. I mean,
Chat will
yeah.
be that's how we're going to deal with F tiers. Is chat can save a game out of F tier if we really feel like it doesn't deserve it. But I feel like Gears deserves. And you know what's weird is like Gears is an old franchise. Like back from when I was in middle school.
Yeah, Gears has been around forever, but again, we just got to talk about 2021. I think it's
I know.
not fair to,
What I'm saying is, no. I wasn't saying it because of that. What I'm saying is, it's crazy how it's been around for so long, and like it still is just
like has been shit for as long as it
it
has.
just can't break that glass ceiling that it's
No.
been at. So
Okay,
chat
we're
is
getting
saying
a bunch of
F-tier.
Fs here,
It's
so we'll go with
F.
our gut. Like I think
Sorry,
we were on the
Gears. You're the
right
first
page.
F
I
tier
think
of
it
the
just
night.
felt a little guilty putting it there, and that's why I was having a hard time placing it there
Well,
because I
because
do feel a
and
little
here's the
guilty
thing with
giving a
this tier
game.
list, and I know some people get, they take it personal. This is not a judgment of how bad or good the game is, how much work because Gears has like they support it from a developer side of it, right? Like it's like the developer ran league. So I'm not knocking it for that, but
Knocking it because it's not a good esport.
Your esports scene is on life support.
Yeah.
That's why. Like Starcraft, not popular esport, but it's steady. Like it's consistent within its fan base.
If you ask me, Tim, we're giving them an opportunity to have the biggest rise out of anybody.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is an easy setup for Gears. All they have to do is make their esport pop this year, and they could have the biggest jump in TCR history.
This is true. And you know what? Maybe we'll show up to the event next time it's in Arlington. Farming Simulator is next, as Farming Simulator has its own league. And, whether it be a meme within itself, that's for the viewer to decide. I like it. I get it. It's a bit, I think, just throughout the whole lifespan. I don't know where E tier we gave it last year.
How did this happen? Right? Because last year it was kind of a joke to put it on there. Like it had been requested to be put on there. It's still on there because they do have a proper league and their website's better than COD League's website in terms of seeing standings and points and navigation. They have a slew of like teams that are involved. So
my heart says S tier, but that's not what this is about. This is not.
I think my body, if your heart says S tier, my body says D tier.
Okay.
Because I don't think that it's worse than like a 2K league or surprisingly look I think it's a meme. To me it's like a meme coin
but it
to,
works.
crypto.
Like
but it works.
Like it has everyone getting involved to tweeting about it anytime there's an event because it works.
They got more support than StarCraft. They have more viewership than Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. So
it's such a ridiculous concept. It works. So it moved up. It was E tier last year. So congratulations, Farming Simulator. One of the few to move up. Up next, WoW. And this will be WoW in general. So this is including the Mythic runs. It's including Arena. Okay? Just how we feel about World of Warcraft esports.
I think what hurts World of Warcraft is the Shadowlands expansion. I think it made the Mythic both where they were at for PvP at the end of Battle for Azeroth. Although it was hated by the pros, from a casual standpoint, it was a lot of fun to watch because you had all these borrowed powers and it was doing crazy damage and like people were just one-shotting people. Like it was fun to watch. And from the Mythic side, the Battle for Azeroth Mythics, I think, were just better as a whole. I think we've seen teams like Method drop out, which was like, because of their own undoing, obviously. But like we lost some big names. Now we did see Complexity and Limit kind of do their merger. Um, I would, man, I would put it as a C tier again, and probably leave it there. Maybe it could we could fight for it to like drop down to D
I
tier.
say I
The
was thinking.
problem is, I think it's in a better place than a game like Hearthstone. I think it's in a better spot than a game than Farming Simulator.
Are we including World First into this?
Yeah, like it's all part of
Okay,
it,
well
right?
then
Like
I'll give it a
it's
C
all
tier.
part of it.
I'll
Like
give if World First counts, C tier, because regardless of if you don't like the mythic runs, if you don't like the arena, the World First race to defeat the raids every time they come out is riveting. Like it's just you're watching all day and keeping up, and it's such a peak EU versus NA rivalry when it comes to that, which is like an instant like point in my book when it comes to esports. If you just have anything NA EU rivalry,
and
it's
this
going
really
to work.
came down to the wire. Like this was truly like
Well, remember it was the patching time, and people thought it was going to get rigged for NA because EU's patches. It was awesome.
No,
awesome.
It was like that probably does save it. You're right. Like I didn't even think about World First when we were really talking about it. But look, Shadowlands is not helping this game at all. So I think it always has the ability to jump out, jump
to
up.
be fair,
And the
Shadowlands was
viewership
fine.
is like
it's the slow updates of Shadowlands.
Shadowlands sucks. The whole expansion sucks. The mythics suck. The raids are average. The PvP is boring as shit. Like as a casual player, not as I don't know about like pro level in that sense, but it's a terrible, terrible expansion that I've spent too much time.
So I can't tell myself it sucks, so I can justify with the time that we put into it. But either way, World of Warcraft overall I think is a C. The World First completely saves it though, 1000%. Looking up next here, another FPS. I believe the only true old school arena shooter on here, Quake. So obviously this is stemming from Quake Champions, which is the one game that Bethesda and all of them really focus on. If you go to QuakeCon, it's the main stage. They have the league there. Last time it was an F. Do we feel like it improved? Honestly,
it's still an F.
I still think it's on life support.
Look, and you know what? We'll be friendly. We'll include another game with this. We'll go ahead and say Quake /Diabolical. And
no, no. So you see, that's even an insult to Quake. Diabolical is not even on this list. Okay,
it's not. But they unfortunately the arena shooter falls in the F tier because it just. We talk about life support. We're trying to raise somebody from the dead. Like this game needs Jesus at this point, and so
it's got COVID, unvaccinated.
Yeah, it's like really, really bad right now, and so there's no way I can move it up from where we had it. They haven't done anything to give us reason to. In fact, with them, going to the online Quake Quakeland, drawing a blank on the name,
QuakeCon,
the one that we go to. Losing that to making it an online event, although we give QuakeCon props for how they do
it's an
their
awesome
online
event.
It's great. Like it really is cool.
You are missing out on the in-person hype of Quake, which in person it is great because it's such a fast-paced game and you get the headshots and everyone in the crowd cheers. But even then, when you're at the event, the only matches people care about are like the final 4 matches. Other than that, it's like a ghost town near the QuakeCon, near the Quake Champion stage where they're actually playing esports. So, it's an F tier.
It's where
it's
it
an
belongs,
F tier,
unfortunately, right now.
I wish it was higher. I love Quake. Quake Champions is an okay game. I'm not a fan of the champion aspect of it. But even then, you open up the game and it still says it's in early access, and it's been like 5 years. So
they should not lose that tag because right now they can say they're still working on it.
Right there alone is F tier. All right, looking here, Apex Legends. Now, between last time and now, they have released an official pro league, which doing well. The game itself is actually, I think, has gotten a little bit of a resurgence in my eyes. I felt like the game was hyped, then it went to not as hype, but now it's kind of hype again. Like I feel like it's really competing with Warzone. I don't know as far as like a player count. Someone can disprove me on that, but I just feel like from a outsider looking in, I feel like Apex has a very, very strong player base mixed with the Pro League. I don't know where we put it at last year, but I think it goes up from wherever.
Yeah,
We had
I
it at
would.
D
I
tier.
think Apex could be in the B tier. I really do. I think it's grown a lot as an esport. I think as a game in general, having a lot of these big streamers also go over has helped the hype behind it. But the Pro League's actually done really good. Draws in great viewership. It's engaging. The game is relatively, although there's abilities, it's relatively easy to watch. It's very fast paced. It can be infuriating as a player at times, but I think they have found their niche and what works for them in a world of 1,000 BRs. Apex has really stood out, and so I think it's a B tier game, and I think it's gonna have a hard time jumping from here, and it might even have a hard time staying in this slot. But they've done a good job. They had a good year. Um, they keep their game up to date. They listen to the community quite a bit. Uh, Pros don't bitch about the game a ton. Like those are all things that we can look at when we talk about Apex. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think Apex is in a pretty decent spot and had a relatively good year.
You said B tier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I agree. I think from a D to a B is a pretty big jump, a pretty big improvement in my eyes. But like again, I thought it did real because remember last time the reason we put it in D is because all the promises were there that these league and the esports was happening, and they just never did anything with it, and we just had like the hype from a normal casual player standpoint. Now
Yeah.
the league, we're finally seeing them kind of put their money where their mouths is. I like a B tier as well. Next on the list. Last year, this game was an A tier, I believe. Call of Duty, just in general, Call of Duty League, right? Whatever Call of Duty it's on at the time is what we're going to judge it off of. Anuj, this might be the biggest drop that we see on this list because ignore your opinion on Call of Duty Vanguard, which one's better, jetpacks or not, World War II or modern or future. Take all that aside, right? Because that's just personal preferences, and you're just going to like whatever Call of Duty you like more anyways. And it's all nostalgic opinions half the time anyways. Take all that aside, the esports side of this is an absolute... It's in a downfall. Like it is... You jumped out of the plane, you pulled your parachute cord, and it's just, like when the parachute just kind of, rather than opening, it just kind of stays little like fidgety and you're just falling down and you're just hoping you can get the lifesaver out fast enough. That's where Call of Duty's at right now, because you have absolutely no communication from the league on what's going on. For the longest time, we didn't even have a 12th spot, which was just sold, and now the league is like patting themselves on the back for that.
They're figuring out the third game mode. Like
they don't have a third game
the damn
mode
league yet. The game's been out for
you
so
have
long.
The players, the owners.
Now we are talking about. Try to keep in mind this has got to be for 2021. A lot of this stuff that we're bitching about is stuff that's taking place really for this year's league.
Well, but we're only 3 days into this calendar year, and all that was in 2021. All that bitching and moaning was in 21, and this is where I'm gonna get them. Your game comes out in like October. We are now in January 3rd. You have not had a single pro event of your new Call of Duty game since launch, which is an absolute joke. Your game is
waiting
only
for the player base to go down, and
right. Like your game is only relevant. First off, your game's not relevant at all on the multiplayer side. It's only because of Warzone it's even relevant at this point. So now you have your new game launch. All these pros are hyped into playing it. They don't know what they don't know, so they still are having fun with it, right? They haven't really realized that it sucks and they hate it. This is when you need to launch your events, when the hype is all built around it. Not, 4 or 5 months after the fact, because the league isn't starting until February. Not 4 or 5 months after the fact where everyone already hates your game and is just waiting on the new one to come out. Like your game is already essentially dead in a lot of people's minds, and your pro league that people pay $20 million has not had one thing going on in it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I wouldn't give it like a drastic fall though, because for me, what saves Call of Duty is the players, right? Like the competition is still amazing. Like thinking back of some of those series that we saw, right? What was it? Minnesota making like the comeback, being down 4-0 or something like that in that best of 9 series, or maybe it was like they were down 3-0 in a best of 5 and came back and pulled it off, or whatever the hell it was. Like, we had some of the best comebacks. We had Toronto Ultra play some like awesome Call of Duty at the end. Like, the players make that game right now. It's not the developer. The developer puts this game in such a tragic spot that it could fall into like a D or even E spot. But the level of play is still like awesome. And I think when we get around to watching it, like, you're telling me you're not going to be interested this year, even though with all the shit that's going on, you're not going to be interested in watching like Scump team with Shotzi and see those two
I,
SMG players roaming around the
yeah,
map
like
together. Like,
yes, you're going to be interested, and that's what it
Clayster and
is.
Crim6 being the two ARs on subliners. Like, there's other storylines related to the players that keeps it interesting for me. We had it as an A last year. I think for 2021, I would probably only drop it a slot and maybe move it into a B. And I can see this year it falling even further into a C. I mean, look, we gave Halo with the one event, a
Right.
B tier.
See, I was gonna
And
say C. You can convince me a B because again, if we're not judging it off of things that haven't happened yet, like the drama,
we know what's about to happen,
the
right?
drama going into this season, like what's gonna happen. But I guess maybe things could turn around. I don't see it happening.
Like, I thought the league wasn't like terrible last year. Like, the games, the
Right.
actual games, if we're just talking about that, I don't think it was like that bad. I actually enjoyed watching it. I think this year I'm purely just interested from the player storyline standpoint, but
Right.
I've hated watching the game so far. I mean, just going back into the World War II, like, just make me fucking gag a little bit. But I just don't think that it fell off that hard in the level of play, and the game wasn't that bad last year compared to what we see now. So
The
I would fight for B tier and let it fall, maybe one further. Maybe just for shock factor, we could throw it in C and see how, the reaction comes from that. But I didn't think it was like a god
like I
awful
said,
game last
for
year.
me, the hang up is the fact like your game came out in October and it's now January and we haven't had anything of note from it.
Yeah, I guess we're looking at it in two different, because I'm really only talking about
Right.
Cold
You're
War.
looking at what's the season. I'm saying from a year standpoint, from
Yeah.
January to January, you had like half a year's worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And the
No,
rest has been negative. I'll give it a B if you want. I'll give it a B. Just
it is being a little kind, because it is a BC.
it's like a
somewhere
B.
in that
Yeah,
range, right?
it's
Like,
B
not,
and a half or whatever.
yeah,
C and it's
right around there, like 9 3/4.
Yeah, if I could
platform
put
9
it in
3/4 type
between
thing,
B
like,
and
it's
C.
right there. It's probably high C, low B. So we'll give them the B for 2021. But be prepared. This could be a drastic fall off even from a B tier for this game this year. So players have a lot to
and
do
again,
to
I
make
guess
this interesting.
most of the bitching too is coming about the game, not necessarily the esports side of it, right? Like, players don't like
the game,
right? They hate the
right
game.
now.
This is not a game tier list, so I'm not judging it off of that. I'm not judging the fact that they don't have any league play or ranked play in the game. That's separate from the esports side.
Let's
it's
not even.
good.
If we bring that up, we're gonna convince ourselves to drop this even
right.
further.
It's not
If we're
good.
Just looking at the esports, I think
just
2021 was an okay year. Not a great year, not a good year even. It was an okay year. Okay to me is like a B minus.
Yeah, like you're a low B. Don't
Yeah.
don't hang your hat that you're on the B tier. You're a low B. You are one good comment away in chat to be dumped to a C. All right, looking at the next one here. This one here, I lost sleep over last year because I felt like we screwed it up, which was Dota 2. So Dota we had as a B tier. I felt like that was a little harsh because Dota has such a strong player base that when it has big events, they're huge, right? Like,
it's just one big event though. It's
yes
just
and
one
no.
big event.
The international is massive though.
It's the only time that Dota is talked about on my timeline. I know they have other big events. I'm not saying they don't have other big events. That's probably the wrong way of putting it. but they're only brought up on my timeline once a year. It's League of Legends, everything else, right? So I want to compare it against its truest competition, which is you have League and you have Dota. And I know the Dota guys out there would crush us for putting it in B, but like I still think it belongs there. Like I haven't really changed my mind on Dota unless they do something to change it. And they put so much focus on one event, and all the hype is built around one big prize pool, and that's like all we talk about. And it's amazing what they do with that one event is truly incredible. But it's a one event through a whole year. We give Halo a B because they had one good event in 2021. Well, guess what? Dota 2 was also only brought up one time, and they were around for the whole year. And so I
This
still
is
think
my
it's a
hang up
B.
though with it is like looking at the viewership numbers for some of these events that aren't TI. Right? First off, the prize pools are always nuts for anything, right, with Dota. But looking at like peak viewers for some of these, it's like 49,000, 74,000, 113, 41, 245,000, 76,000. Like there's just such big numbers involved there. Now I do agree though, the like TI, 2.7 million viewers. Can we move it to an A just so I don't lose sleep over it?
Yeah, let me look at our list right now.
I feel like Dota deserves to be with Valorant.
It feels bad putting it with the other ones, other Bs on this
Right.
list, right? Because you could make that case then. Well, hey, if we're putting Dota as a B, then really we should probably maybe drop Apex down a notch, drop Call of Duty down a notch, and it kind of messes up the whole list. Then,
Right.
because
If
then
you're
we have all
saying
these
that it's a
games.
B tier because League is better and Valorant is A, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it
That's
makes
fine.
sense to
That's
put it
fine.
A.
I get it.
And I
For
agree.
me, the hang up is just like
I agree.
all the focus in the community is around that one event. Although the numbers you mentioned are like impressive, right? For any game.
I
The
agree.
TI pulling in 2.7 is pretty
2.7 will
freaking
get you
but it's
there.
like it's 2.7 because people really just want to see who
I know.
wins all the money. Like, I
I
mean,
know, but
I
it
get it. I
works.
get
It
sure. You know
works.
what? Like A is fine with me. I'm not gonna fight you on it, but I have my reasonings
I
for
know.
like
I know. I know. And look, if it makes you feel any better, I do think Dota, in my heart, used to be an S tier, and then they changed their tournament format, and I have not paid attention to it ever since. They used to have it like very smooth. There were like 4 majors every year plus the TI, and it was like almost like a tennis calendar, like very easy and simple to follow when you need to pay attention. And then they were like, you know what we should do? Have like 5,000 tournaments to where like it was one of those, oh, if we have more tournaments, everyone will watch, and it kind of backfired. And it's like, no, you have too much that no one cares, apart from the TI.
no. Look, A is fine. We'll give it an A tier. It's probably the fair spot for it, but my gripe with Dota is that I like League of Legends better. So that doesn't also help the Dota case. I want to throw in our oddball one before we jump to the next one. So let's go with Age of Empires 4. And maybe we
Oh
just
yeah.
say Age of Empires in general because they do have community events outside of 4. But they did have the new release in 2021. The game is fantastic. Haven't had a chance to play it too much. I've just messed around with the single player and played a little bit with one friend for a couple of hours. But um, I think it comfortably fits into the D tier. I think that they are doing a good job of supporting the game. They're really trying to revive a genre here, right? And I appreciate that because a lot of people have quit on RTS, like completely abandoned it, moved on. We've seen, we talked about it earlier, we've seen Blizzard abandon the biggest RTS of all time in StarCraft. And yet the guys over at developing Age of Empires have not only brought us a new game, they brought us HD editions of their other ones. They run tournaments that have like 10K, 15K kind of prize pools consistently. Doesn't have awesome viewership or anything like that, but I love the support behind the game. And I love the fact that they are trying to keep a genre going that has really notoriously struggled for the past 10 plus years. And so I would put them in D tier. I like what they're trying to do. I think 2022 could be a little bit of a better year for them, and maybe we see some growth and it can bump up a little bit. But I like that they've put that effort there and run some pretty consistent tournaments since the game came out. So I would give it a D.
Based off what you said, I would say D. I don't
probably
pay attention
it
at
might
all,
be a little
but
high. It might be a little high, but we can
look, you
can
put
slide it
Halo,
in.
you put Halo in D last year for me. I'll let you put Age of Empires in D this year.
I appreciate that.
Okay, we'll give a little itch for an itch. Next on the list here, Overwatch. So not so if we have to do what we did for Call of Duty, where we're not judging it off of what's going to happen, but what happened.
I mean, it was a shitty year for the esport too, though.
Yes and no. Like the viewership was okay. They actually had some of the higher viewerships that they've had based off of because you have to understand now the way they're doing it, it's like more regionally based, right? So some of these matches always have a little bit more storyline and drama going into them to a point where if you're a fan of the game, you do have more interest into it as opposed to, okay, we're playing this or that. The drama was there.
They've lost so many people though too. Like their biggest name players all abandoned the esport. It's basically become like a lot of Korean teams with San Francisco Shock. Like and even they're split. And so it's like it's lost its appeal to the masses. It's lost its appeal to a lot of NA and a lot of EU. It's carrying its weight in some other regions, but I think the two largest regions for esports have kind of walked away from this title a little bit in my mind. We gave it a C last year, and by no means do I think it had a better 2021 than it did a 2020. The game, they announced early on last year that the game was moving to Overwatch 2, but we're probably not going to have Overwatch 2.
They're still saying it's going to be. Now, again, we're not judging it off of next year yet, but they're saying it's still going to be on Overwatch 2. But if it's going to be played on Overwatch 2, it's got to be like early development package Overwatch 2.
But then we're going to be watching an esport that nobody else is playing. Like I worry about it for next year's ranking. I think it also falls into D tier though, personally. I don't think Overwatch has done anything to help itself. I think it could easily have fallen into an E tier with, just a couple of other minor mistakes, but the formatting was bad. The league was bad. I mean, nothing went right for Blizzard or Overwatch in 2021. And so I would drop it a notch. They still have okay viewership, and that's one of the reasons why we will kind of keep it in D, because it's better than the viewership.
Well, and it does have developers. I mean, it does have the league behind it, albeit not the great support system that it once was pitched
but they've
as.
Lost also like the heads of the league in so many areas, right? Like the face of the league is no longer there from a leadership standpoint. You've lost your biggest name players to other esports, and so
I'll tell you what hurts Overwatch and mainly all the Blizzard games is when they made the switch over to YouTube. And that's not to say YouTube is worse than Twitch, because I actually prefer YouTube streaming platform and look, right? It just looks better than Twitch. As far as like the web player and the pause and rewind, all that's great. But for like a game like Overwatch, you need those window shoppers, right? You need to have that Twitch integration with the, like, again, some of their bigger viewership numbers when they were on Twitch because they had the drops, right? You could watch, earn in-game currency to buy skins and things like that. It just pulled in those numbers. When you went to YouTube, you didn't have this like mass migration that I think that they thought they could pull. So that hurt. The format, like you said, doesn't help. Some of these matches are like super early in the morning or late at night, depending on where you're at because of this.
All I know is everybody was in Hawaii half the year, playing games. Like that was probably the coolest part of the season for a lot of these guys. Dallas Fuel made a little bit of a rebound, but we haven't kept up with that at all. So it's like there's just not been anything there that I feel like engage people, honestly.
So I would say D tier is probably fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Definitely.
You're in the same tier as Farming Simulator. There's a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Like, so this is the difference, right? So a game like Farming Simulator in D tier is like, oh, wow, that's really good for you guys. Like that's good. But then if for a game like Overwatch, where you have millions of dollars invested with it. It's like, okay, like you guys are dropping, you need to figure out something. So
Yeah. No, different feeling for a D. One guy's happy that they passed. The other one's sad that they used to be with the big boys and now they're irrelevant.
all right, next on the list is Rocket League. A game that I feel last year was A tier. It's definitely A tier. I feel like someone who knows more about Rocket League could probably convince us to put in an S tier just because it is an esports unlike any other, right? Like it's not a shooter, it's not a MOBA, it's not a fighting game. It is so unique and like the appeal that it can have to people. The league is massive. They just had like their first LAN tournament back since COVID, because they were like very, I don't want to say like touchy about COVID because obviously you want to be, but you know they played it safe. I think longer than other leagues and events. So they had their first LAN event, huge numbers, huge reception. And again, I just feel like
everybody just plays the damn game.
Everybody,
like everybody just plays.
It's free to
Rocket
play
League
now, right? They went to free to play, boosting their numbers there.
They do some really cool partnerships that make it fun, and like, yeah, I think it's just they held steady.
Something's holding me back from that S tier, right? There's something
because it's not an S tier. Like you then we start comparing it to the other S tiers, right? So we're gonna say Rocket League's on the same level as like a Counter-Strike or League of Legends. I don't think so, but I think if you say like Rocket League consistently pulls good numbers, hosts big events, has a massive audience and following on all platforms, involves kids of all ages. You have the boomer crowd and the dads playing it with their kids. Like it really grabs everybody, and they do a good job. Like
I'm still waiting on
still
waiting on the Rocket League TV deal. Like it's such an easy transition to be shown on TV, like to the massives. I can't believe it hasn't happened yet, but that's what I'm waiting on. That will get it to S tier, maybe. But no, A tier still Rocket League. And that's a good A tier. Up next on the list, F is for Fortnite. Oh, look at that. Someone in chat said it was shown on TV in Australia and it flopped hard. Interesting. All right, maybe my theory's wrong.
TV and esports I just don't think works well. I know you might feel different on that, but to me TV and esports is just not where that audience is watching from.
Yeah.
Like we're watching on consoles or computers.
And anything now, you can like Twitch,
like
smart TVs have Twitch apps anyways, so maybe it's like people are like, what's the point?
They also promote it in game to like go watch live, so people watch it there. Like it's just not, I don't know. Esports
TV is for boomers. TV is for boomers.
I mean, I watch shows in particular, but I'm not watching.
I mean, you're talking to a guy who spent 10 years working in radio, so don't listen to my opinion on TV. I just discovered what TV was. I was in radio for so long.
Fortnite. Fortnite. I want to hear your take first on Fortnite because man, oh man, have times changed when it comes to Tim's playtime in Fortnite. Just so everybody knows, because in case Tim doesn't put it out there, I'll put it out there for him. Tim's playtime in Fortnite over the past 2 weeks, he's doubled it since the game has come out.
Oh, dude, no, more than quadrupled. I probably, before this last season was added, or chapter 3, season 1, I probably had less than like...
You had less than 100 hours.
Oh, I mean, I probably had less than 24 hours. I think I had like just under a day of Fortnite playtime. Absolutely hated the game. Hated it. I thought it felt bad. I thought it was just the community. I hated everything about Fortnite. But the fastest way to Tim's heart, you add Spider-Man. And then I will download it and play you. So you add Spider-Man.
The talk of a no build mode coming.
The talk of the no build mode coming. And the fact that Anuj and I were pretty much partners in crime to where we can always play it together. Mm-hmm. And we have a mutual understanding of like we're not building. Like apart from a ramp and a wall here and there, I'm not building shit. Like
okay, so if we're going to talk about the esports side of it, it's a little hard to push Fortnite in a real positive light because They don't have the World Cup. They haven't done that in a couple of years. I'll tell you what I like about what Fortnite does from an esports side. And the only reason that I would give it obviously a better rating than it had last year, because it can't be worse,
Last year we had an
is
F because we said it wasn't an esport, which
Yeah.
last year was probably right. That was probably justified.
they do one thing that I really like that I wish other games did, and it is the in-game tournaments. We don't talk about that enough because we don't have it in other games. Like, you just don't have a lot of games that do like in-game support for tournaments, whether they're cash cups or whatever they want to call them for Fortnite. But they do host events for the player base that's actively playing the game. You see it pop up on your screen right when you're playing. Like, it shows you the list of when these different cups are coming in, and you can play and qualify to go, advance further in. I think that's pretty cool. But with that being said, they still don't have a real esports scene. To me, it's a bunch of content creators playing for esports orgs and playing the game casually and then joining these cash cups,
Mhm.
as they kind of come up. We had it in F last year. I would say that it is honestly like another shit with Overwatch League
I
and
mean, it's an E
there
tier.
makes a little.
It's an E tier.
It's an E tier. Yeah, I think it's an E tier, but I
And the only
put
reason
it
it's not
put
an
it in
F.
front of StarCraft though. I
Okay.
would put it in front of
We'll
the
put it in
StarCraft
front of
thing to make me
StarCraft.
feel better. And now, guys, no, the rest of this is not in some kind of crazy order. Okay, we have not gone through and actually ranked these from each tier, but I didn't want it to be at the end of the list there. Um, it's an E tier.
The thing is
If
when you
they
look
do
at
like
F
a
tier,
World Cup event, would jump them a
yeah.
whole notch. They would have been a D tier game if they just had like a big event, because the following for the game is still there. It's died off considerably, but it's still massive,
I've
right?
never
It's
seen
still
a game have the video game industry in the palm of its hand and do so little other than add skins for money. Like they got Nate Laser, what was his name? The old Fortnite or the old Overwatch commissioner, right?
Oh yeah,
They stole him from Blizzard as to be
that
like,
was a great idea.
yeah, like it was supposed to be this whole like, oh, he's gonna bring esports back to Fortnite and all this, and they haven't done anything in that. Like you said, they have it in game, but that's always been there, right? That's
Yeah.
always been their thing. Is hey, if you play, that's where they could bump up there. Like, hey, we have 10 million pros, right? Because of how they get their numbers. But other than that, like you said, yeah, it's like they just do tournaments here and there, and we know from firsthand sources from people who try to host events, like Epic does not make it easy to host Fortnite events. So that's why you don't even see a lot of third-party Fortnite events, is because Epic is very stingy on how you do it and who they do it with. So that's why you don't see a lot of Fortnite esports outside of Epic sanctioned events anyways. So it's just, unfortunately, it's a game that, first off, the building is still dumb. Like, I watch some streamers play it, and I'm like, oh, this is so bad to watch.
It's nightmarish to watch it on a
I
professional
couldn't even
level.
watch it on, even if it was a World Cup, I'd be like, oh my God, this is terrible.
It's not the same game that you and me play.
No. We play a very much different game. When the no build mode comes out, we might go pro in it because that's all we play anyways. We have a head start. But looking at the F tier, it's not Gears of War and it's not Quake. Like, it's not on life support. Fortnite is still booming in that regards. But as far as like promotional and anything you do to esports, you're doing bare minimum. So it's an E tier in my book. On the flip side, another BR on the list. PUBG, and you can include this PUBG Mobile. I think at this point it's all the same, right? Like, it's.
I mean, well, PUBG Mobile, if we kind of throw that in there, probably helps it, right? Like,
That's what I'm saying. But like at this point, I hear more about PUBG Mobile than I do PUBG, so I'll just include this in that discussion. But with that being said, it's still PUBG. I know PUBG Mobile is super popular in other places in the world other than the United States. But you just don't hear about it ever.
Still has like a $15 million prize pool for their season coming up.
Yeah, the money is there.
They have a full calendar roadmap that you can go check out for 2022. Like, they have all their events laid out for you, the different qualifiers. So that's all there. They do have a third-party ecosystem, which I think is pretty decent that they kind of allow that. I honestly would have PUBG in like also a D tier. Like I
Yeah,
know that's
one
bumping it up.
over, because I'm kind of comparing it to the other BR on the list, right? So it's what I would say one over Fortnite, but at the same time, a game that could have been so much more, right? Like we've seen it at DreamHack events
The
completely.
game is so flawed is the
Right.
problem, right? Like you watch the game and I feel like even watching the pros play, I'm like, man, it doesn't bother y'all that the game is like not fleshed out at this point. Like it still
Right.
feels like they need the beta tag on the game still, you know? And
Yeah.
so it's not definitely not Apex Legends category. But I do think their esports scene is doing all right. And I like that they've put roadmaps out. They have a good prize pool. Viewership is like average, you know. I say average, below average, but it's not great, but it's not god awful. And I think they do a decent job of supporting what's left of the game. So I think it can fall into D and be okay.
On the list, a new game. This was a first newly added game onto the list from a listener suggestion, Smite. So Smite, I've actually never played the game before. So this is solely off of me being outsider looking in from an esports point of view, because I've never touched the game in my life. To me, I felt like one of the worst things they could have done, and this is all in retrospect, I guess, but even at the time, people were saying, what? When they signed the deal to move over the Smite Pro League to Mixer. Now, obviously, we all know what happened to Mixer. It died. And I felt like Smite kind of followed in their footsteps in the sense of like, I remember seeing it on Twitch and it had a decent following. But then when it went to Mixer, like anything that went to Mixer, it just, no one followed it. You forgot that it was even there. So, yeah, you might have been the only esport on Mixer, but no one was there. No one was watching, right? So I don't know where it's at even right now. Like, clearly it must have some type of following if someone suggested it, but...
Cool fact, I played Smite in the beta, and then when it launched a lot. And during the beta, you could buy a Gods pack for $30, and you got every single character that they ever released in the game. Probably the best purchase of my life. As you probably recall that we went back recently with a couple of buddies that owned it to go play it. It's still a fun game to me, especially the arena mode is actually a lot of fun. It is a over the shoulder like third person MOBA, so it plays very different than the traditional MOBA. With that being said, the esports side is like not big. It's small, right? I see somebody comparing it to like you know Paladins kind of.
Well,
I put the
Paladins
mold
might be dead, right?
but
Paladins.
yeah, but like they're all like in a lower tier category.
Yeah.
I think this could safely be an E tier.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's an F tier. I think F tier again. I leave for live support. I don't
Right.
think Smite's on live support. I actually think like really looking at the list, I would probably now shift a couple of things like going back and maybe we talk about that offline just to see if there's some areas where we could have done better or changed some things up. But like Smite is a safe E tier based on how we have the rankings.
Well,
right
and
now.
I do think like in general, you're going to have more lower tier esports because not every game can pull in 200,000, right?
No, that's not realistic. I mean, I don't even think every game's shooting for that number, right?
Right.
Like I think it's some
Like I've always
games...
thought if a game, like for Overwatch, if you're averaging like 70 to 80,000 viewers, you're probably happy if you're Overwatch League. Like that's probably...
But if you're Call of Duty pulling in 50 to 60 like they're doing, that's horrendous.
Yeah, like you should probably pull in more when you're Call of Duty with the type of fan base that you have, right? So
your Warzone tournaments pull in 10 times that. Like,
Warzone's a different beast, but yeah, it's all relative to the game, right?
Yeah.
As far as like what's good and what's bad, like just because if you're a Smite fan, you're like, whoa, we're on there with NBA 2K. Well, again, you just gotta kind of remember where you're at, right?
We can do a quick one for Paladins, F tier.
F tiers.
So,
I think it's dead. I mean, I don't even think it's on life support. It's dead. They buried it.
Yeah.
they were the only. Man, I remember Paladins when it was so painfully obvious that they were paying the orgs to be a part of their league. So painfully obvious. Smite was another one that the teams in there aren't even orgs. It's all developer ran teams with pro players on them. So
Yeah.
like you don't have Envy or you don't have Cloud9 or any of these guys involved with Smite anymore. It's
And we got confirmation. I won't name who, but we got confirmation that they were being paid to play in the league.
yeah,
You
for
know,
Paladins. So
yeah.
that tells you all you need to know about their esports side. Developer obviously cares a lot, but yeah, not the way you want to do it. So there's that. Up next on the list, Rainbow Six Siege, obviously for the sake of this conversation. Last year I think we had it in A tier.
B
B tier. Okay. And I still think it's there. I don't think it did enough to improve to A. I don't think it did worse to drop down to C. Rainbow is still one of those games where I'm so impressed by it when it has a big event because the viewers show up, the fan base behind it love it. It's just not one of those.
It's just niche,
right? It's just not one of those games you're going to constantly get.
If you don't play the game, you don't understand what the operators are doing. The way that people can break, like everything is destructible to create your own lines of sight. Like that takes knowledge of the game to really understand exactly what they're doing. Like you're like, oh, how the hell did they even see this person? Like sometimes I feel that way when I'm watching it, and we have played the game, so I think B is like a fair space for Rainbow Six because we gave them props last year. I feel like quite a bit for what they were doing, but they really haven't done anything to like make me feel that same way. But as you mentioned, they also haven't done anything to be like, oh, they really need to drop here because of this, or this.
Right. So there's that. Up next, a game that took the gaming world by storm, Splitgate, a game that we played very, very, very early on in alpha when they were still using Master Chief as the player model. Look, the game was as hyped as hype can be. Like #1 on Twitch, had queue times of hours waiting to play for it. Anuj, I looked on Twitch last night for Splitgate. It had like 100-something viewers. Like,
yeah. And didn't they just announce like what, $1 million league?
Well, they have a pro league for it, and obviously they got a ton of money from investors and everything like that. But that being said, I would honestly have to put Splitgate as an F tier because no one talks about it. You don't hear anything about it. Yeah, you announced the pro league, but what good is a pro league if no one plays or watches? So I would say F tier. And maybe, again, for Splitgate, that might be where they want to be. Like, hey, that's fine. Put us on F tier. We're still a work in progress game, right? Like, we never... Obviously, they liked the hype and the attention, but it's not like they were pushing it, right? It was just, I think it got popular on TikTok, which is what blew it up, right?
Yeah. They waited too long, right? You waited too long to the Halo release to, like, get everything going. Like, it should have happened a year ago.
I mean,
I honestly, like, have a hard time putting it on the same level as Gears of War and Quake, though. I do feel like it's more popular than that. I really do. Now, again, like, the way it's maybe shaping up, it doesn't end up
they don't even
anywhere.
Not that I judge games off of this website, but esports charts, you look them up and they don't even show up. Like, they don't even have tournaments. It's just this league, I guess.
Maybe we'll leave it on F, and if they take off...
That's what I said. Like, F tier is not saying that they failed. I don't think Splitgate has launched yet, right? You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that they've even put in the effort on the esports side. And they'll probably tell you, like, yeah, no, we're still working on the game. We did this league thingy to create some hype around it, but...
If it hasn't taken off yet, is it ever going to take off? I mean, again, with Halo out now...
I guess because they were so
popular...
popular...
Why would you play Splitgate instead of Halo?
I don't know, because you do a line of Coke before playing games, and so Splitgate's what you need.
The portals actually annoy me.
I mean, I do too, but again, we're boomers. These Adderall kids up maybe like it. I don't know. But for me, it's F tier for now. The hype was there. But again, from an esports side, it's like you launched the Pro League right when it was kind of dying off. And then, like you said, our fear was all along is Halo was going to distract it. So there's that. Splitgate, F. Last but not least, on this list, another listener-suggested game, Anuj. Brawlhalla. So the last but not least game is a fighting game, another platformer like Smash in itself. I will say Brawlhalla. I think there's a ceiling as high as it can go on this list. Like, a no knock to the Brawlhalla community. like you're never gonna
But to
be.
me, Brawlhalla would still fall under F tier if that's how we're comparing it, right? Because like I look at the other games in E tier, and
See, I would still at least put it.
Fortnite, NBA 2K, like NBA 2K then should be above it. I feel like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat 50/50,
But Brawlhalla still has tournaments and events. Like DreamHack has a stage for Brawlhalla, or at least the last one we went to had a stage for Brawlhalla.
in 2018.
Oh, but still, I mean, it's still there, right? NBA, you don't hear at all. I would think if anything, it would be an E tier along with.
Yeah, I feel like I hear a lot more about NBA than I do Brawlhalla. Brawlhalla only got added to this list because a viewer mentioned why isn't it. We didn't even think about it.
Well,
when we were
I don't
making the
think
list.
about Brawlhalla. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not like I
E
seek
tier is the
out.
highest I could ever see this game.
And that's what I said. Like there's a ceiling for a game like Brawlhalla. I think
congratulations, you hit it in
like
2021.
like E tier would be your S tier if you're Brawlhalla. Like you're just never going to. Like well, this is why I wouldn't say it was on F tier. Maybe it is F tier. It's on life. Is it on life support or is it always just going to be steady? You know.
I mean, I just don't hear shit about it. Like, I don't hear a word about Brawlhalla. I don't see it on subreddits. I don't see it in Twitter. I talk, we follow enough esports people to where it's like, surely I would hear one. I couldn't tell you one thing from an esports standpoint about the game. And we follow esports. I mean, we have our hand on the pulse. I feel like pretty closely, like what we enjoy doing. I don't hear anything about Brawlhalla. Again, I'm okay with the E tier rating. Sure, like let's throw it there. But
Brawlhalla. I just
like,
googled Brawlhalla esports. They at least have a
they have
section
like $1
of it.
million event or like league or something.
I mean,
like
who
that
doesn't
that
have
they
$1
do.
million
Well,
event
like everybody
nowadays?
has $1 million league at this point.
We could do $1 million event if we really wanted to. Like it doesn't seem that hard.
Splitgate to me had a better year last year than Brawlhalla did.
We'll see that on that. I don't.
Twitch Rivals events and things like that. That I know we don't count Twitch Rivals as much, but like I saw a lot more about Splitgate than I did Brawlhalla.
I'm just looking here. So Splitgate's esports, now not this is any indication. Splitgate's esports have 4,508 followers on Twitter. The official Splitgate esports Twitter page has 4,500. The official Brawlhalla esports has almost 800,000.
Yeah, but think about like when Splitgate, before Halo came out, Splitgate had like a 2-month run where it was like one of the most popular games on Twitch there. And so I'm just trying to compare the two. Like, did Brawlhalla ever do anything?
But
throughout the
again,
year?
we're not talking about popularity on Twitch.
No, I know. We're
esports.
talking about from the esports side. Like, I'm including Twitch Rivals in this because that's really all Splitgate had. Brawlhalla, I'm sure, had more than that. I'm okay with the E tier rating. I just
don't think it's on life support. I think it's as alive as this is as alive as it's going to get. Like,
I would agree with that. This
like
is like
F
this
tier.
is the best. This was the best case scenario for the Brawlhalla dev that's watching right now.
Right.
This was really like the best case scenario.
Like next year, we'll be able just to skip Brawlhalla and start it off at E because we won't ever. It's never going to get bigger. It's only ever going to get smaller. No matter how many free characters you throw on Twitch, that's what it's going to be.
Now that we have gone through this list, okay, because once we save this, Tim, we just talked about it. Once the
stream is done, it's done.
Do you see any areas of adjustment? Because I think I see one.
I like S tier. I like A tier. I like my B tier. Again,
see, I would change one thing in B tier.
The only thing I would change in that is Call of Duty would, to me, go to C.
See, and I was thinking I would take Melee down to C.
Oh, see, I don't think Melee can go to C. You still have all the Melee events that are still pulling in. Like when Mango and HBox play and stuff, that's still easy 80,000 viewers you're going to get.
for that one person. Yeah, that they're following, watching. Like, yeah, I mean,
see, I still think Melee would be B. I just think the events are too strong. Again, look, we watched it. We caught ourselves watching some Melee events this year together, and even our buddy who doesn't watch esports at all was watching a Melee event. So that tells you something with Melee in general.
I'm bothered that there's only one game in C tier. It's like bothering me that it's stacked that way.
That's just how it is.
I feel like something else needs to either be bumped or moved up, and we need to make a case for it because it can't just happen to make it look pretty. But there needs to be a case for moving something around.
Again, my one case to move a game down would be Call of Duty to C tier. And I don't know if I would make a case for any thing to move up to C tier. I think this is just the way it is.
Like the split gate to C tier.
I just think that's how 2021 rolled. I just don't think there was a middle of the pack game.
Yeah, I mean, WoW truly is that middle of the pack game. It never dies, but it never really does.
Right. Like you watch it when it's on, but you're not like going crazy for it. All these other games below WoW, you spent maybe 5 minutes watching it. And then any game above WoW, you maybe actually watched it, especially if you play the game, you're going to watch it. And that's kind of how I see it, right? You want to
take any guesses where we're going to get shitted on for this list?
Like, I think that's an easy way to look at it is B tier and up. I would suggest to anyone to watch those games, and you'd probably have a good time following the scene. Any game below C tier is going to be like a hit and miss, whether or not you're just into it, right? And then C tier being WoW it is what it is. It's WoW. It's been around for, 2 decades.
All right, let's lock it in.
Lock it in. This is it. This is it. Everyone in chat, you were here to witness. I think we're still...
You participated, so if we get shitted on, you guys are part of this also.
I think you're going to get Valorant fanboys who are blind and still bitch about...
No, they can shut the hell up. If they think they're above A, they can...
but they will. They'll...
I feel we're going to get shitted on by the Halo community. Because people will be like, how is Halo? Did you not see the numbers for Halo with 500K for that event?
For one event where the first day barely even finished and we thought we were going to have to cancel the whole thing? That event? Yeah, I saw that event. One event does not get you above B.
And then Overwatch fans are probably going to be upset.
Yeah, but they got... you know what? Maybe not. I think Overwatch fans realize it. I think, if anything, Overwatch fans would be like, I thought Eve sounded right. Like,
just posted at an off time of Korean Standard Time, and we should be okay.
Call of Duty fans will probably tell us it should be F.
Yeah, Call of Duty fans might be surprised that they're in a B tier. So,
but again, think of the league.
Emphasize 2021
right.
when we post this, because that is the most crucial part of this.
Right, not looking ahead. If we are looking ahead, and if we were weighing it a lot, Call of Duty would be much lower. But you don't know what you don't know yet, and they haven't screwed up the league just yet.
Call of Duty Cold War season,
right?
Is basically what we ranked here,
right? Otherwise, I'm genuinely happy with the list this year.
Biggest change from last year would be Halo moving up 2 tiers, Apex moving up 2 tiers. That'd be the biggest move ups. Biggest move down.
I think we just had a few, like Overwatch and Hearthstone. I think went down 1.
Yeah, just like one.
Ultimate might have gone down 1. I'm not sure. But either ways, for those not watching on the stream and listening to the podcast, to recap, and then we will send things off. You have S tier, League of Legends, Counter-Strike. A tier, Valorant, Dota, Rocket League. B tier is Smash Melee, Halo, Apex, Call of Duty, and Rainbow Six. C tier is WoW. That's including everything, Arena, World's First, all that. D tier is Smash Ultimate, Hearthstone, Farming Simulator, Overwatch League, PUBG. E tier...
Did we oversell Farming Simulator, Tim?
No, I don't think so, because again, when you get the bigger tournaments that are memed up, it will carry it over.
Okay.
Because can you honestly tell yourself that Farming Simulator is like I can't meme StarCraft into viewership. Like, no one is watching
Like, is
Starcraft.
Farming Simulator on the same league as those other games on the D tier? Because D tier, surprisingly, a lot of popular games
It's just
have
fallen
had, like,
off, right?
yeah, fallen off. Yeah.
No, I would say Farming Simulator is fine. I would
Okay.
say it's fine. The fact that they haven't given up on it, and it's still just the memeness is carrying it through. E tier is the heaviest tier this year, which I think it was last year as well, with Fortnite, Starcraft 2, NBA 2K, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Smite, and Brawlhalla, the controversial Brawlhalla. And then F tier is Gears of War, Quake, and Splitgate. So there you go. Also, for reminder at home, Brawlhalla in between E and F could be either, and Call of Duty B and C. So for those yelling at us, those were the in-betweens. Those were the ones that I think we discussed the most. But man, what a hell of a way to start.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this overall. Like, I'm comfortable hitting the save. Do we want to add in like age and all that to this before we save it?
I
Or
don't know.
just-
I'll save it afterwards because you have to like,
Okay.
you can't just like, you have to like go
drag him in.
get the
Okay, yeah,
image
yeah,
and then
yeah.
save it. So yes, that is true. Age of Empires was what? E tier? D tier?
D tier.
D tier. Sim Racing was C tier. And those were, I think, the two.
Oh yeah, we got sim racing to throw on that C tier
Yeah.
category.
Yeah. So it wasn't the only one. Sim
Okay.
Racing was C. I think those were the only ones.
Yeah. No, I think this was
we
good.
added.
I feel pretty happy about this.
So yeah, good list. Good way to start the year. Again, for next week's episode, Monday, we will do a recap of things that we missed while on holiday. So be sure not to miss that. I know, Anuj, you were mentioning, I didn't keep up with anything. You mentioned something about like how you didn't like the women's league or something like that. So you were going to give your opinion on that.
Out of here. And my name's not Semler. Boring over here.
You said
That'll be a fun topic. That'll actually be a really fun topic to get into because we get a bash on some big name personalities for the way that they think, and look, it'll be fun. We have a lot of catching up to do, guys. Like, this was a fun episode, but I am excited to kind of get into some of the nitty gritty. So stay tuned. Next week will be a lot to go over. We got a lot to cover, and we have a short amount of time to do it in. So we'll zip through some stuff. It'll feel like a elongated e-news episode with some esports and women talk.
Yeah, good stuff. So that will be next week, and the week after, the Timmies, our annual esports award show. So get your nominees, your categories in order. If you have anyone for the in memoriam section, please let us know on Twitter or Discord. We would love to add them. And it could really be anyone that's involved in gaming esports. It doesn't matter. We're not. This is not one we get picky on. So just send us some names and we'll add them to the list. But until then, thank you, Philly Esports, for sponsoring the show. By no means, though, do they agree with this tier list. Because to Philly Esports, every esport is an S tier. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. For Nuge, I'm Tim. We'll see ya. Bye.
No, man, I am not holding a Thorin. It is important to throw that out there and make sure everybody knows that. We do not discriminate on this show.
No.
Unless it's against our own kind. Then we're allowed to.
Then you're allowed to. Then you're allowed to, for sure.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to get into because there's just no way you can agree with either.
I was going to say, it's like, it'll be
process.
interesting and not at the same time because you're right. Like, there's no way that you can argue. Like,
It's not a point that we would argue. It'll be a discussion on why they're wrong.
right. Yeah, it's just,
Yeah,
like, what
that's
harm?
Basically what it'll be.
like, out of things that you decided to wake up that morning and argue, there's a lot better things to argue. But yeah, that was a long ass show, so I'm gonna get to editing it and all that fun stuff. For everyone in chat, thanks for stopping by. Love your face. Wolf,
Good to be
talking
back.
you. Yeah, good to be back in general.
Fun participation day. Thank you guys for showing up. We really enjoyed it. It's always fun to be able to do this with y'all and have people participate as we go. So yeah, we'll be back on next Monday. We'll probably be playing this weekend. So if anybody's looking to game, always join our Discord, follow us on Twitter, all that fun stuff. And if you want to join in, Tim and I are going through a plethora of games right now.
We
So
really
we're
are.
really open to, if you find an FPS game that you are playing right now, there's a good chance we've put some time into it in the last few weeks here.
We are playing. I mean, it's Halo, Counter-Strike, Fortnite. Like that is
It's
our
all battle pass focused in all of these games.
that is our rotation as of late, and it's actually been pretty fun. I won't lie. Like it's kind of nice not just grinding one game, but yeah, if you play anything, let us know.
All right, guys. Y'all take care. Thanks for tuning in.